full of fucking shit.
Been homeless, living in my truck, me and my dog.
I'm dragging my daughter through crack house.
The devil is always waiting to pounce. Let's start off a little bit. I know you've talked about it a lot, but like where you kind of came from, like the younger JV, because I've never heard that. I've heard your story about the homeless side of it and going back home and like just being defeated and be like, it's not how it's going to be. And turn it around there. And I think I have a very similar story. I was living in my truck.
Right.
Like, very similar story. I lost everything. But before that, I've never heard that life. Who were you growing up?
Man, I was a broken little boy, man. And I think the reason why I'm here today is because of the experience I had 17 years ago, December 18, 2006, I committed suicide. I say committed suicide because John Vasquez died and JV was born. And it was due to a massive opiate addiction. So I was a clean-cut kid, you know, went through some stuff as a young kid, went in the military, right, tried to find my identity. I was just kind of lost. When the military, I'm pretty much unemployable, and I'm not very good in that. I enjoyed the military, but I don't like being told what to do. So I left the military, and I ended up trying to become an actor and a bodybuilder, and I, went through that realm, and I did bodybuilding for a long time. And the reason where the opiate addiction came in is because the reason why I wanted to be an actor, why I wanted to be a bodybuilder is because of the edification I was looking for. So I was looking for edification from the world outside, and had a leg injury, which is, we can talk about freaking cycles, man, because this is so weird how the universe works and God works in cycles, but something just happened a year ago that represented itself. I tore my quad getting ready for a bodybuilding show, and the doctor prescribed me an opiate, and I was a clean-cut dude.
And that was it.
I took the opiate, and I remember driving. I remember the exact underpass I was going under, and this euphoric feeling came over my body, and I felt like confident. I was like, for the first time in my life, I'm like, damn, this feels good. And I remember walking into Walmart, I'm talking to people, I'm like, wow, I have some confidence. So the next day...
This was when you took one of the pills that gave you that kind of confidence?
Yeah, maybe this feel euphoric. I never felt like that before, and I'm like, oh my God. So the next day I took it for a leg workout, and then, I was still training. I wanted to keep taking it so I could train for the bodybuilding show. 1 became 2 pills, 2 became 3 pills, typical opiate addict, became 7 pills, 20 pills a day. Then I'm buying it on the black market. And then around 2006 was the demise. I switched to an injectable painkiller, and I went from injecting it to main veining it, and the rest was history. Once you start main veining something, I became a junkie. And July 2006, I had about $65,000 in my bank account. I had a business back then, a bodybuilding company. And from July 2006 to December 18th, 2006, I was at Walmart. I was getting emotional talking about it. I was at Walmart, and I was, my daughter was 3, and I was trying to buy presents for my daughter. It's really hard for me to talk about it, but I was trying to buy presents for my daughter, and I was high out of my mind. I go up to the front, have this whole bag of things for Christmas, and run my debit card, it declines. I run my credit card, it declines. I didn't even know I was broke. I was so fixated on the drugs, and every card declined. So I go to the bank, and I sit down in front of this banker. Ironically, I became a banker after that. And I'm sitting in front of this guy. He had dark hair, kind of looked like me too. And he turned the screen. I'd never had an overdrafted account before. It was all red. Everything was red. And it was like, and that's how I felt inside. And at that point, I was really deep in the drugs. I mean, there was demonic things talk. It was bad. It was a bad situation. And the manager came over. My ears started ringing, puts his hand on his shoulder, and all I could hear was, "You're broke." And I was like, what I heard in that essence was the gig is over. It's done. Like, I had lied to people. I'd been stealing from people, my family, my parents, lying to them. And I got in this big H2 Hummer. It was all a facade. My whole life was a facade. My business looked like it was doing well, and it wasn't. Everybody had quit. Like, I was just looking for the drugs. And I went into my office, and I loaded up a massive amount of opiates in a bunch of needles. And I remember thinking, man, I don't want my mom to find me dead on the ground. So I blew up a mattress, and I was like, I remember consciously thinking, I'm gonna keep going, and then I'm gonna throw the needle away from me. So if they find me, I'm in some sort of decent position, I guess. And I remember putting the last one in, I threw it, and I blacked out. And all of a sudden I hear this ring. If you remember the razor flip phones, that distinct ring. And I just hear this ringing, and I'm like, this is how the secret thoughts become things. The first thought I had when I woke up was like, you can't even kill yourself correctly. Like, that's how dark my mind was. And I was like, am I dead? Am I not? Is this hell? Is this heaven? Whatever this is. And I go, and it's my mom. It said mom on it, and I opened it up, and she said, I'm not sure what the F is going on with you, but you need to read a book called The Secret. Your grandma just read it. And I was like, I'm not dead. I'm like, oh my God,
Is
I'm
that the
not
book
dead.
that they did the Netflix series on?
Yeah, yeah, The Secret. Yeah, it's pretty interesting. And so it's just a concept of thoughts become things. And the interesting thing about this, which will go into our story later on in the podcast, is that I prayed for the first time ever in my life. I'd never prayed. I'd never been taught about God or Jesus. I was baptized Catholic when I was a little kid, but I never was taught how to pray or about God or Jesus. Didn't have a relationship with
Right.
any type of God. And for some reason, I prayed right before I died. I said, "Dear God," and if you see me on Twitter, I put "Dear God" and everything. So it goes deeper than people think. People say pray in your closet. I'm praying all over wherever I can, and I put "Dear God." You know, I said I don't remember exactly what I said, but I didn't mean for it to end up this way. Please protect my daughter, my mom. Like it's just, and I but I was like, what was I praying to?
Mm.
Like, what was that? And then I woke up and then read the book, The Secret. I'll spare you the whole story, but ended up going through my own little recovery and I started to I was like, all I can do is start thinking differently. And I had nothing. I was buried in debt. I couldn't take care of my daughter. And I started thinking differently. I started saying, I'm powerful, I'm strong. If you, when you walked in our facility here, you'll see the I am affirmations right there on that board. I'm powerful, I am strong, I am worthy, I'm abundant. And my frequency started to change. I didn't know that's what it
It
was.
sounds like The Secret, 'cause that's what the book is
Yeah,
about,
that's
really. It's
100%.
like the
Yep.
the going into your mind and being
hmm
able to understand that you're the controller of your life in a sense.
100%. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I didn't know. Now, 17 years later, I understand what mechanistically happened in my brain. But back then, that's all I really had. All of a sudden, I get there's a lot of stuff that happened in between that, but I get this call. And a dear friend of mine named Joe Italic, he's pretty much saved my life. And he said, hey, he's like, JV, dude, you should interview for this position at this bank. And I'm like, a banker? I'm like, I have just severe dyslexia. It doesn't make any sense. And it'll share with you like why, probably why you and you can connect all the dots why I'm doing what I do today because God is good. And so I go to this banker interview and I still have the suit in storage. I bought it for 50 cents at Goodwill. I had zero money. Big oversized suit. And I'm sitting with this lady, Lori Schmidt. And I'm like, ma'am, I'm like, please. And I'm doing the manifestation, right? I'm doing all the juju on her. And at the end of it, I was like, can you just give me a position? I will clean the toilets. I'll be the best employee you ever had. I remember I had the little Honda Civic, that's paid off Honda Civic. I'm driving the Silver Bullet and the phone rings and she's like, hey, John. I'm like, yeah. She's like, thank you for interviewing. I'm thinking she's going to let me down. She's like, we want to give you the position. And I'm like, as a what? She's like, a banker. And I was like, a banker? And I was like, a banker? She's like, we can give you the training. She said, this is key. We like your energy.
Okay.
And I was like, huh, okay. So I called my mom. I'm like, Mom, I just got a job as a banker. The first thing she says, she's like, you can't do math. I'm like, I know. So here we
Oh
are.
no.
And so I became a banker, and the rest is history. So I went through, I moved up to executive in 2 years, 7 months, 28 days, all by using thoughts become things, manifestation, vision boards, reverse engineering my goals. And I didn't know what was happening. All I knew is I had a second chance at life. And then as I've gone through that process, I started to go through a great awakening in banking because I went from one addiction to another because now, oh, look at, I'm finally, the edification's back. I'm like, I got a degree now and I got the CBA Executive Banking School and I'm a vice president. I got the 535 by BMW and all this stuff. And I'm still looking for that edification from my father. It's like, and it's not there. What if I get to regional president? And it's like I'm in this, and I'm looking around at me at all these executives that have all this stuff, and everybody seemed miserable, man.
Mm.
Like miserable.
It's true.
And yeah, I started going through this great awakening, and in 2017, I couldn't do it anymore. I walked out of the banking system, and
Now
you
the
know,
banking system, let me ask you
yeah,
this. Did the banking system really wake you up to how money works? Is that what really woke you up or was it something else?
it woke me up to what people will do for money.
Okay.
Yeah, so I didn't wake up to what money really was until I went through from 2017, losing everything in
But
COVID.
then you finally understood the system.
Yeah, yeah. Then I was like, something's wrong here. But what it woke me up to is what people will do for money,
Okay.
how unethical people can be, and how we're truly not educating people around finances, and how America financial system trains us to trade time for money so much time we can't pay attention. And
It's like modern day slavery.
100%. Like all we weren't teaching our people financial literacy. We weren't teaching them. We called it financial education.
We talk about this all the time, like in
hmm
school, they didn't teach us this stuff, right? It's
No,
like
no, no, no.
we learn
Yeah.
all this stuff in
Yep.
school. We spend what, 16, 18 years, however long it is in
hmm
school, between elementary all the way to high
Yep.
school, some college,
Yeah.
some go
Yep.
into PhD, right? And they
Yes.
spend 20 plus years of their life. and then they get out.
Yep.
How many doctors have you? I don't know if you've ever talked to doctors. I've talked to multiple doctors, especially in the industry we're in. They don't understand money at all, but they're super successful.
Yep.
Right? Or they're rich dad, poor dad successful.
Yes. Yep.
Right?
Yep.
I know you like that book.
I
know
book,
you've read
man.
it.
Yeah.
If you haven't read it, make sure you read it. Rich Dad, Poor Dad.
Cash
It's a great
Flow
book.
Quadrant too.
Yes, Cash Flow Quadrant came from that book.
Amazing. Yep.
Correct, right? And that's kind of what you're talking about. You go
Yes.
from here to here. And I think it's one of those things where people, that they understand that, it's like, whoa, you finally wake up and you really have a life that you can actually enjoy. But a lot of these people, they go through school, like we were saying, and they do not get educated on money at all.
At all.
And so it sounds like one of your passions is to educate people on money.
Yeah, we have to. We don't have a choice anymore. In America, we do not have a choice. Like we are in the toughest position that a country can be in. Now, America's going to survive this, but the middle class isn't. That's the difference. They will survive it, but the middle class is going to look very different. And so I've made it my mission to not only fix it myself, but to educate the next generation. So like then again, I leave banking, right? And I do the American dream. I come here to build a business. I went through Alex Hormozy's gym launch program, build a successful business. But again, indoctrination, I'm trading time for money.
Right.
I went from having a job to buying a job. And so now I'm in the business. I have cryptocurrency, and it's like, and then all of a sudden the pandemic comes and shuts our business down. So we got to get out of this vertical strategy. There was no diversification. I was like, yeah, I'm diversified in crypto. And people are like, the wise counsel was like, in crypto, what do you mean you're diverse? Like, that's one asset class. What if it collapses? So then my business collapsed because of COVID, and I'm like, what the hell? So then from there, I end up having to move back with my parents. I mean, think about that from my parents' perspective. Cinderella story, suicide to a VP at a bank. Walks out, puts his family at risk at about 40 years old, and then has to move back in on their couch at 43. But when I knocked on their door, I knew, I was like, man, something has to change. At 43 years old, I finally started to become a man. I went in there and I was like, I had a pretty tough I got in an argument with my dad, and I stood up for myself. And then me and my mom went on a walk, and I felt something shifting me. I looked her in the eyes. I said, Mom, nothing's ever going to be the same. Like, I'm going to fix this. And so I drew a line in the sand. I'm talking like the Grand Canyon. Like, I'm jumping on the other side of the Grand Canyon. This is where I'm going. I said, I have to rewire my brain or I'm going to end up in the same situation. That's why I keep going broke. And so what I did is I went to this place that has, it doesn't cost a dime, the library. I went in there and I started reading every single book I could find on how wealthy operate. Cash Flow Quadrant, Richest Man in Babylon, Think and Grow Rich, Secrets of the Millionaire Mind. And number one, it was a thing that I had mastered, the mindset. I'm like, okay, I got that down. But money, you need to understand how money works.
It's a game.
It's a game, 100%. And we're dealing with a game. It's fugazi. It's fake money.
No one knows the rules either.
Yes.
Right? So there's rules in the money game that you're starting to learn. There's probably rules that me and you don't know yet too.
Correct. Yes.
I call them the Donald Trump rules.
Yes.
Right? The stuff that,
the Augusta rule, I just learned about that. I'm like, what?
I don't even know what that is, but that's what I'm saying. There's so much stuff, right? It's like a game, and we talk about this all the time, and I try to educate my following, you guys, right? Like, it's a game, and if you can understand how, like, think about life. I don't know if you ever thought about life like this.
Yeah.
And before I even get into that, I want to say kudos to you for what you did, because I've been there as well. I've been living in my truck, don't know what I'm going to do. But you hit rock bottom. You go, it's either I'm going to go this way or that way.
Yeah,
you chose the correct way.
Yeah.
You chose the right path.
Yeah.
You chose the one with more resistance, but that's the right one. The one thing I've noticed about successful people that I've met throughout my life is that every single one of them, they've hit rock bottom at some point. That took them from being, some of them were successful, then hit rock bottom, and then became giants.
Sure.
Some of them, multiple times in their life, they hit rock bottom.
Yeah.
But every single one of them has had a story like yours, whether it was becoming homeless, drug addiction, alcohol, right, family issue, an issue spiritually, right, just being like consumed by devilish acts. Like, we've all been there at some point, and it's just interesting to hear it from you, because every single person that I've ever met that I've had a conversation like this with that has what I call success, when you hit that 7-figure mark and you're like, okay, my life's pretty good, I have this business, that business, they've all had something in their life like your story.
Right. Yeah.
Right? Have you ever noticed that?
Yes, I have. And I had a really cool conversation I want to bring up, because one of my clients said to me one time, he goes, this guy has had a very successful life. And it was really interesting. Like, so there's two dichotomies to this, right? There's the rich parents have rich kids, poor parents have poor kids, right? Yeah. It's a train thing, right? So this guy came from a great family. His dad taught him business when he was young. He was extremely successful. And he goes to me, he goes, man, he had a super awesome life. And he goes, man, I kind of want to go through what you went through to experience. I'm like, no, no, you don't.
No.
I was like, I had to go through that in order to become who I am. I said, your father, someone before you,
He went through
that.
and taught him.
Yes. And
exactly.
I was like,
don't make the mistakes that I made.
correct. And that's the best learning, is finding somebody like you, a mentor, that's been through it, and they give you the cheat code, right? So now I condensed 17 years of trials, tribulations, losing my money 3 times so people don't have to do it. And the biggest thing about that, I think what failing really hard like that does is it teaches you who you are. Like, you really understand it. And I always tell people, become a millionaire. And I think Jim Rohn said this, so I'm paraphrasing what he said. But in order to, if you become a millionaire, to find out who you are. Because only 1% of small businesses make it. So 85% of small businesses fail, 15% make it, 1% become 7-figure ecosystems, right? It's more of the process of who you become in that. Because, I mean, you've been there, right? I mean, there's nights where I've been curled up under my desk crying, trying to figure out what the hell is going on.
There's nights where I slept
Just like,
under my desk.
what do I do?
Like, I didn't have any
We just
place
made
to
some
stay.
tough business decisions today. Like, you're always, but the beauty in it is the essence of what it is to be a human is creation. We're supposed to expand consciousness. That's what we're supposed to do. We're supposed to suffer. Like, it's part of the process. And what people do is they're looking for an easy life, but it says make the path to light difficult so that we can not follow. The path to the light is understanding who you are and the essence of being a human being, right? And you can only get to your truth and being a human being through pressure.
I agree. Well, it's something they say about diamonds, like how's a diamond created, right? They're very rare.
Yes.
You know, my wife has a big one on her finger.
That's awesome.
And I'm just kidding. I mean, not, but it's nice. But like, that was created by pressure, right? And anything great in this life, I think, is created by pressure. How much pressure, you know, I'm very fully, I'll admit this, you've seen me, you know, my wife's behind us as we're recording this, and she's seen me in tears, and she's seen the struggles, and you've probably been surrounded around people that have seen you in tears, and just like it become right. Your producer raised his hand, right? Even Javi's seen me there, right? And I've known Javi my whole life, but we've only been working together for less than a year. Luis as well, right? So it's just crazy. So those of you out there, this part of this podcast, I want to really I want you guys to understand what's coming from this, is that no, it's not easy, but you know, it's going to be worth it if you put the time in. I mean, how great is your life now? And look back to when you were in the 9 to 5 and you were just in that grind every day. Would you be as happy as you are today? Even if you were making good money, would you still be as happy?
And I was making good money. I was making great money.
So the money didn't make you happy.
Money didn't make me
So
happy.
it was more the lifestyle that you were able to. I mean, we were just here with your kids, and they're having fun and hanging out, and you know, I just showed you a picture of mine. You know, we were able to afford that lifestyle for them. So it's very powerful. I hope you guys picked up on that, because that's huge.
Yeah, because I think the whole thing, for example, my daughter will explain it the best. She was like, I was, of course, what a Cinderella story, right? So, and she's a G, man. My daughter's a beast. She's 20 years old now. I put this kid through hell from birth to about 4 years old. From 2 to 3, I'm dragging her through crack houses to buy drugs. I mean, crazy stuff. This kid has been through wild stuff. Then Cinderella story, I become this executive, and in my mind, I thought I created this great life for her. They do this interview with her. It was a couple years ago, and it was kind of like, it was supposed to be like a documentary thing. It didn't fruition, but I got to hear that. She was like, can you step out as I do this? And I was standing outside the door listening. And she said, Dad, you know, it was interesting. She said, my dad, when he was a drug addict, I thought he was a superhero. Now check this out. I was with her every single day. I was broke. But I was buying drugs, but I was with her every single day. Then I become an executive. I'm working 12, 14-hour days, executive meetings, always on conference calls. And she's like, I liked my dad more when he was a drug addict. She was like, and then my dad, you know, goes into this new business model, right? Then he's working 12, 14 hours a day. Then my dad finally gets his shit together and realizes what life is all about. And life is about freedom. Freedom, time, freedom of choice. But to get there, just like you said, you have to create pressure. And what people are doing is everybody thinks you have to like give up all this stuff to get money. No, you have to figure out who you are. Once you find out who you are, my daughter calls me the richest, poorest man in the world, right? I mean, I barely put my shoes on for this, you know, like I would rather be up in a forest right now. I'll be honest with you, on psilocybin, not being transparent with you. I'd rather be walking around the forest barefoot, and I have everything I need. When I realized I have everything I need, I got everything I wanted. When I realized I knew nothing, I became the smartest man in the world. I hear this all the time. They're like, JV, when crypto? I'm like, stop. What about right now, dude? Like, why can't you live a good life now? Why can't you be happy now? Why can't you be joyful now? Because of this, this, and this, but you created that. I said, you created that, man. You created that. Why don't you change it right now? That's how I became wealthy, is I changed it right now. I remember sitting in the garden in Peru, I'm like, I'm the richest man in the world. Like I have food, I have shelter, I have books, I have mentors, I have all this stuff, and it's like, and if it all failed, I have the skill to rebuild it. Because when you release that energy and you release that vibration, which they indoctrinate us to feel, which is force, you can never become free.
Yeah,
Like
you freed your mind.
you have to, and it's like, so
Yeah.
what America's operating in, what's called force. It's anxiety, stress, jealousy, greed,
They
excess.
call it the keeping up with the Kardashians,
Right. And
right?
that causes hyperactivity, which eventually causes inactivity. You have to have the courage to find your truth, which is authenticity, gratitude, and unconditional love.
Yeah.
And that's, especially for a male too, that sounds weird, right? We weren't taught that type of stuff. Like, I unconditionally love all males in my life. But unconditional love does not mean, all the men out there are like, oh, the unconditional love does not mean that you let people walk all over you.
Right.
You don't. Unconditional love means I will unconditionally love you no matter what, but you don't need to be in my life. But I'll still love you.
Until you give me a reason not to.
So you give me a reason not to,
Right.
and you do that through, for men specifically, is setting principles for your life.
Like
Like
that.
when I set principles, I set boundaries, and I started to live those principles and boundaries. My life started to shape around me, and that's what I hope people will hear through this. It's like I was chasing something for the longest time. I mean, up until like 24 months ago. And I'm like, because we're in the bull run, and then all of a sudden crypto collapses. Right? We're going through these cycles, like it's my life. This big cycle. I want to bring up cycles because I talked about this, right? So 2022, the bull run collapses, right? So the good thing is we'd already started diversifying. We built businesses. Usually people in crypto, when the bull run is going, they're rich, and when the bear market, they're barely surviving, right? But we had built an ecosystem. And so I was starting to gain this financial freedom and stuff. And then 2023, craziest thing ever, right? So I go to do a jitsu class with my son, blow out my quad, tear my quad. So the universe, God works in really interesting ways, right? So I blow out my quad. I'm in the hospital, full blown out quad, right? At this point, I'm still running the gym. I'm in the gym still, trading time for money. I'm still like, knew I needed to scale the business. I know I needed to make that jump to get to where we're at today. And God tore my quad. And guess what? Presented me with opiates. My first thing in my other business, I tear my quad, I get presented with opiates. So here we are 17 years later, and I get presented with opiates, man. And I'm like, oh my God. The difference was my environment. Very different.
You broke through the chains.
Broke through the cycle, and I had different people around me. So I had this, I get emotional. I had these opiates, and I'm like, man, I cannot become a drug addict again. Man, my daughter's 19. We have a good life. I'm like, this is crazy. And I was sitting there, and I'm like, okay, so I called people in my team that's close to me. I said, May, she's, my partner. And I said, listen, like, I'm scared, man. Like, I want to take these right now. She's like, are you? I said, I'm in a massive amount of pain. She said, we're only going to use them to mitigate pain. We're going to use them for their intended purpose. She's like, when is it hardest to survive? When I can't sleep. She's like, take it right before bed so you don't even feel the effects of it. So the key, what I'm trying to tell people, is your environment is so unbelievably important for your success. It is extremely important. The spouse you pick. I hear how highly you talk about your wife, which is so awesome. The spouse you pick, the teammates you pick, the people you're around, because who you surround yourself with. I know people hear this all the time, but it's so like
Yeah.
that. When that got presented, it was almost like God was like, okay, you got the financial freedom, you got all this stuff that you wanted. I'm going to represent your old self to you, and see if you can transmute this energy.
Wow.
Pretty wild stuff, man.
Wow. I'm getting emotional just thinking
Yeah.
about how you're feeling in that moment because I get it.
I remember sitting there, and it has the little red cap on it, man. I'm like, oh my God. And now I'm a very active person. I have to move all the time. Now I'm at home by myself. The great thing is Dustin shows up, my brother shows up, sets up the office there. And what it did is it catapulted our business, because we're able to scale our business. We're able to get me out of the gym part. I started trading time for money, started scaling everything up. So my point behind this is, some of you may be facing something that is really dark right now, or something that feels like it's, but see it as something that's coming to present to you, to see if you can transmute that into light, because everything is seeking light. Everything is like, why I tore my quad, like what the heck, and then the opiates, and then I was successful when I tore my quad in that business. It was like the exact same setup, and I'm like, so people may be seeing cycles in their life, and that's what we're here to do, is transmute those cycles. You'll see them in relationships. You'll see them in, so like we leave a relationship to find something new. Then we get into a new relationship, but we're looking for something new, but we're still looking at the same person in the mirror. Then you repeat the same cycle. Oh, get divorced again. It's like, no, you got to fix the problem. And so I think that's the biggest thing. The journey that we're on now is that we're working as a team to work harder on ourselves than do anything else and work to transmute that darkness into light. And so, because the world is going through a pretty big transition right now, right? And everybody's waiting for the next president, they're waiting for crypto. But imagine a world if you woke up tomorrow and you were like, okay, whoever's gonna be president's gonna be president. Crypto may go parabolic, it may not. But what I can do is I can get up and go exercise. You know, I can pray this morning. I can make sure that my text messages are ethical and moral, and I can actually act like a camera's following me around all the time. And the things that I do within my private life will eventually become my physical life. And if everybody did that, all this would stop. But that's the human condition. That's the beauty. And I don't know where I'm going with that, but that's the human condition, is that we're all waiting for a savior. That is the dichotomy of the things we were talking about a little bit earlier. It's like they taught us to wait for a savior. And Christ that I know is like, you're already saved, brother. Like, pick up your mat and walk, you know?
I like it. No, I resonate with everything you just said. I mean, I bet you everybody in this room and a lot of people that are watching right now, you're going to think the same way. Because I mean, so many of us battle, whether it's food, right, drugs, alcohol, right, women, the list goes on and on. There's something in almost everybody's life until they defeat it. And it's still always there, right? It's still always lurking, like the pills were lurking, like you know what I mean? It came back to you. And like one of the things that a lot of people is I'm gonna reiterate your point, because I'm a very, very big believer in it. There's a reason why there's certain people here with me today behind the scenes, and like why I flew certain people out there, right? Why I'm still with this woman and not another woman, right? Is because I want those people surrounding me, because they remind me of like, don't go back there.
Yes.
Right. And it's if you guys one of the big things, I'm gonna tell a story about a family member. I'm not gonna say exactly who off camera, but I have a family member who struggled with the same things I used to struggle with. I don't know if she's still struggling with it today. I don't talk to her enough. The key thing that I noticed, and this is huge for those of you that are watching, because it was what you just said is very powerful. The key thing is those people that are around you, because if you can defeat something, right? You defeat it you can defeat it on your own. But then it's always gonna be lurking. The devil is always waiting to pounce, right? I truly believe that. You have to keep battling that. That's why God is important. That's why I wear this every day. Awesome. Yeah, we had a vacation. I was like, no, you need to send both my watch and this, Javier. We come back. I forgot these, because it reminds me every day when I look down on it. Get those thoughts out of your head. But the people as well reminded me. And you can go through something and beat it, but if you don't have those people to come back to, it's going to be very, very difficult. So your surrounding, whether you want to have financial success or you want to just have success and get out of whatever addiction you're in, or whatever the f is going on in your life, right? You need those people around you, because it makes it that much easier. So it's just a very important point I think you made there.
Yeah, you can't out energy your friends, man. You can't, like, for example, like, I'm very specific on what type of men are going to be in my life. Like, I'm very specific about that. There's certain people I just don't hang out with anymore, because and this sounds arrogant, but when I set my principles, I'm like, this is the type of man and partner I want to be. In order to be like that, I can only hang out with men that operate like that. That's it. And from that point on, and then again, you know, community is very important. What's so important, and it's like I try to mentor men on this all the time, like, what you do in your private life is the most important thing. Because like we talked about illusion, like everything's an illusion on social, right? I can scream in the camera and be like, oh, I'm this, I'm that, I go to Peru and I do all that stuff. But what will truly show up within my life and my partner, my kids, my ecosystem, everybody I'm connected to, is the true essence of who I am, right? In private. That's the key, and that's the battle. And it's knowing that we're all battling shit, man. It's like, I mean, these, you know, social, it's like we have this whole world of men now that are acting like, I got this all figured out. I got this all figured out. It's like, there's only one man that walked this earth that had it figured out.
That's facts.
Christ. And Christ was the one who walked perfect, because why he was perfection? Because he mirrored himself to us. He saw us in him. And when we see other people, like, oh, that's not me, or we get mad at someone else, or we can't stand someone else, but that's the thing we need to work on in ourselves.
I will say that this is the biggest and best reminder of my life.
Yeah.
It's a reminder. It's a reminder to make the right decision. Like that's what it's really helped me over the last, like, really couple months. It's really changed my life.
And I know too, it's like where it's just making the right decision. Like, for example, if you make a wrong decision, you just have to ask yourself. So we talk about origin story. So when it came to my spiritual walk, I talk about origin. This is where I got really deep on it. So when I do something wrong or unethical, in the sense of that it feels unethical, I'm like, where's the origin of that? Like, it's not like that's like the toilet seat being left up in a relationship. Okay, it's like the toilet seat left up. You start fighting. Well, in the beginning, nobody cared the toilet seat was left up. There's a deeper problem, right? There's a deeper problem there, and we're yelling about the toilet seat, but there's an origin that we're not attacking, right? So, for example, when I talk about Christianity and the way that I have a relationship with Christ, people are like, "That's incorrect," and I say to them, "Why do you believe what you believe?" Well, my pastor told me, okay, but why do you believe what you believe? Well, I was taught that. No, that's not what I'm saying. Why do you believe what you believe? Have you practiced the teachings of Christ? Have you put it into your relationship? Have you put it into your life? And when you speak from truth, right, then you know, or for example, origin. Like if I'm eating incorrectly all the time, it's like, oh, I got to solve my eating. No, I got to solve the reason why I'm eating that way. There's an origin to that. It's probably because I'm not sleeping enough, or maybe I'm scrolling on TikTok at night and that's messing up my dopamine, right? And I start eating differently. So I'm like, I always go to the origin of things, or when something's going wrong in our business, it's like, what's the origin of that? It's because everybody throws a baby out with the bathwater, right? And they try to change everything. It's like we need to change this stuff. No, there's a deeper problem here,
Right.
right? So what's the origin of the problem with our country right now? We have a godless country. It's simple. Like it's not, we need a new president, we need this, we need to get back to Christ, we need to get back to God, or some sort of not religious, a relationship with a higher power, which is the foundation. That would solve everything. But again, I'm not here to solve other people's problems, only what I can focus on. And it's like, if you can work on yourself harder than you do anything else, it causes a ripple effect in your family. And I'm only speaking from experience. I mean, I was a crackhead 17 years ago, and now I'm living this life. And then as I realized too, it's like funny, I call myself Coach JB. And what does that mean? I'm coaching myself, man. Like, I'm like, and I say, get your shit together. I'm talking to myself. I'm looking in a mirror when I'm doing my videos. I'm like, JB, get your shit together. So I have this activity I do. We call
Constant reminder every day.
yeah. I'm like, JB, are you getting your shit together? Are you doing the things you need to do? Because that's something that, like, people talk about imposter syndrome. It's like, you're not, I used to say that a lot, and I want to retract that, because it's like, it's not imposter syndrome. Like, I'm not faking anything. Like, if you can just be who you are, there's nothing, you're not an imposter.
Brings me to my point.
Yeah.
A point I wanted to make.
Yeah.
So I've always had this mindset of like being who I am today, like
Yeah.
way bigger than I am
awesome.
today. I've always saw myself being bigger than just
Yeah.
a regular everyday person. I
Sure.
wanted to help people,
awesome.
coach people, coach
Yep.
myself, change people's lives. So that's where I came up with the name Coach Ty. But one of the biggest things I actually, because I followed you for so long, and it wasn't, the Coach Ty didn't come from that, but so many people have given me shit for that. Like, oh, you want to be this and that. Like, you know how the meet, you go through your comments, you know exactly what I'm talking about. But it's just crazy. It's crazy to me.
Because I made up the name Coach.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
I'm the one that invented the name Coach. I'm the only one that can be a
It's
coach.
cool that we're sitting here. We kind of had that same mindset, though. It's like coach me, coach others. The right people will follow you. But I think about it, and I will tell you, one of the things that stopped me from, I used to have this name of TY Crypto, and I was like, why am I doing that? And I didn't want people to judge me by doing coach, and like, it was just a mental thing where it's like I was worried about what other people thought.
Sure, we all do that.
And I want to bring that up as a point and kind of transition into that, because that's one of the biggest things that I think I talk about a lot, is not giving a shit what people think. And so once I did that, once I said, I don't care anymore, I'm going to be Tyler, it opened up massive doors for me. I'm going to be Coach Ty.
Yeah.
It opened up massive doors for me.
Yeah.
I want to hear your thoughts on that in terms of being a figure like we are, and as we get bigger, more you're going to get more love and more hate. Comes from both. What helped you get over the hate?
Yeah, so the hate part of it was loving myself.
And the judgment of others.
Yeah, I'll go through all that. Like he's seen me go through this transition, man. Once I finally fell in love with who I am, I no longer responded to the hate. Doesn't mean it doesn't bother me, though. Whoever says they don't care is lying, dude. You're full of fucking shit. I'm sorry. If you see, like, I've had people dox my address. That's some crazy shit. Like people are mean. But I only can see the comments when I'm in a low frequency. So my point behind this is, okay, number one is I don't care what anybody says, it affects everybody. Number two is the more that I take care of myself and I focus on my family and my ecosystem and I love myself, the less that the hate bothers me. Number three is if I truly, truly love God with all my heart, therefore I have to love humanity as I love God. I got to pull the log out of my eye before I pull the straw out of others. So I follow Christ's teaching. So I do say I love you to these people, and I'm genuinely saying that. Now, the only reason why somebody would spend an ounce of their time commenting on someone else's profile is if they either want what you have or they're very insecure. That's it. And so I know that was me before. So I'm like, it's literally a mirror effect. Like, if I'm going back and I'm responding to these comments, I'm mirroring back to my old self. I'm lowering myself into that frequency. And I'm not saying I'm above anybody. That's the key. I just see that they're in a different space and time as a human being. Their soul is trying to heal through something, right? They're also saying things to me when they don't even know me. Like they don't even, so for example, when I saw your content, I'm like, I love this dude's content. I think it's great. So I started following your stuff because I saw that it was genuine. You're speaking your truth. You're boldly speaking. You're like, hey, dude, I haven't got my dad. I'm like, this dude's cool, man. I like this guy. And like, I don't ever look at another person with either envy, jealousy, or any type of, it'd be envy or jealousy. I want to see people succeed, right? And so number one is like we have to know that it affects everybody. So whatever influencer says that it doesn't bother them, they're lying. I mean,
I
it
try
bothers.
to I tell myself that, but then like we were talking about
Yeah,
it the other day, right?
it's brutal, man.
It does get to you,
You're
right? Because it's like it's almost sad,
you
not
wouldn't.
even like anger. It's
Yeah,
like
I wouldn't even think you're not a human being if it doesn't bother you.
yeah,
You
yeah.
you're a soulless creature. Like if it doesn't bother you, it's like I had a guy that I won't mention the influencer, but he was like, oh, that shit doesn't. I said then you're a soulless creature, man. He was like,
Yeah.
oh, he's like, it doesn't bother. I'm like, yeah, it does. You're getting all emotional. You're getting all pissed off. I'm like, I saw you 3 weeks ago. Like you don't even remember the post that you make. I'm like, just be you, dude. If it pissed you off, it's okay. It's okay. I said, but you can't feed into it. So everything's operating on a, some people may think this is woo-woo, but everything's operating on a vibrational frequency. And I'll give a personal story on how I've mastered this. So I was in Peru. This was 2 journeys ago, and I'm sitting on a garden in Peru, and I leave for 2 times a year, and I go for 14 days. I completely disconnect from the world. So if you see my poster in that, they're all pre-posted. I have no social media contact, no contact with humanity. I'm just disconnected. So I'm sitting in a garden in Peru at the highest level frequency, and I do plant medicines. I'm very open about that. And so I'm sitting on San Pedro, and I'm sitting in a garden, and I opened my eyes, and I couldn't. It wasn't a physical thing. It was a feeling, and I saw and felt me and my daughter, 17 years later, in the crack house. I remember. Oh my God. Anyway, so I'm dragging my daughter through crack houses, right? She's got a freaking dirty diaper on for a full day, man. Like shit in her, caked on her ass. And I'm trying to buy these drugs. I'm trying to do unethical. I mean, it's just bad. And I'm sitting there in this garden 17 years later. And I had this feeling, I'm like, there's a guy or gal in a crack house right now with their son or daughter. At that time, guaranteed, there's
Somewhere in the world, yeah.
somebody in the world. And I'm like, what the fuck? And I'm like, how did I get here? How is it possible for someone to be in a crack house, me to be in a garden? I was like, what happened? What happened was, please, people, write this down. I accessed new knowledge. I activated on the knowledge for a long enough period of time to access that level of frequency for a long enough period of time to make it my reality. And then I got new knowledge. And I activated for a long enough period of time. Now, here's the key factor what we're talking about. When I got to that new level of knowledge and that new level of frequency, I can't go down and visit the old one. And that's where the haters come in. If you start going down and you start interacting with them, you're pulling yourself back into that old level of frequency. The more hate comes, it is telling you the greater you are becoming.
I like that.
The more hate comes, the greater you are becoming.
Amen to that.
If you're ethical, moral, and you have good intentions, fuck them. Like straight up, like fuck them. Because if you are getting, and we're getting attacked, and it's like, I can't see it anymore. I just literally ignored it because what it tells me, because I know that when I wake up in the morning, I'm good to my partner, I'm good to my kids, I'm good to everybody in my ecosystem. I have good intentions. I still make mistakes. I'm not a perfect person, but I'm doing good stuff for humanity.
Yeah.
So people are like, JB, you're a scammer. You charge $25,000 for coaching. Hell yeah, I charge $25,000 for coaching. I've been at this for 17
if
years.
people understood how valuable time is, they would understand it.
And so that used to catch me, and I'm like, listen. So I used to sit there and explain to them, well, I have 6 companies. If I step away from the 6 companies, if I take the amount of money I make and I divide it by blah 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 to an hour, it's $1,700 an hour. But you're spending your time explaining to somebody that is in a totally different field.
They don't even get it. No, they don't even
That's
get
like
it.
explaining it to my old self and being like, I'm going to my old self and be like, JB, like I would have never imagined that I never thought I would make millions. Like it didn't even but I never focused on making millions. I focused on changing my frequency.
I like that.
It's just a level of frequency, and then as I go, we talked about the new doors that open up. As I change my frequency, I'm accessing new levels of coaching and mentorships, and the higher you go up, the more spiritual these people are, the more connected they are. the more you be shocked, people, the more deep relationship they have with God.
I agree. I see that a
Yep.
lot, and
Yep.
or they have a very deep relationship with the devil. Like they have a deep relationship with one or the other.
Yes, that's a good point. That's a very
There's a
good
lot
point.
of demonic
One of the two.
people that we look up to in
Sure,
society as well,
sure.
but they have
Yep.
one of the two, and a lot of times you see those same people eventually
That's a great point.
they come over, they
Yeah.
switch over. You're seeing it a lot with celebrities. You're seeing
Yeah.
it with people like Jake Paul. Like
Yeah.
he's
Yeah.
coming over. He's like, whoa, I don't want to be part of this demonic, right?
Yeah.
But one of them, at the end of the day, you're controlled by one or the other, right? And it's which one are you
Yes.
controlled by, and which one
Yep.
are you going to focus on?
Yeah, happiness and love and hate are on different spectrums. You
Yeah.
can't have both.
Yeah.
Like you can't have both. You can't.
Well, it's a good point, though. I mean, you're either going to focus on this frequency down here or this one up here.
Yeah, and
Which
so
one are you
like,
going to choose?
there's I mean, there's one guy on my social that probably is on yours too. I don't want to mention his name, but this dude every single day, it's almost like I have a relationship with this guy. It's like I can't. It's like something's wrong if he doesn't post. And it's like I almost enjoy seeing it every morning. Every day, this guy posts on my social a hate comment, and I'm like,
We have some of those.
how
I think.
devoted is this gentleman to my? But I always say I love you, brother, and it's almost like I feel sad when I don't see him anymore because I'm like, you know what I'm saying? Like he's become part of my life, and he's a great reflection to me because the hate is getting deeper and deeper, and I'm like, okay, he's showing to me that I'm becoming a higher level
You're
frequency.
transcending, and he's not.
Right, right. And again, and I'm not saying this, please, the people listening to this, I'm not saying that you're above anybody because every single human being has the ability to ascend as a master. I believe that because everybody has the ability to access frequency. I just proved it to you. I was a crackhead 17 years ago, and now I'm this person, same body, same feet, same head, and I'm just a different frequency. And the only thing I accessed was new knowledge. And another thing I've learned over the past year that's kind of struck me, and this may not resonate with people, but I kept trying to figure things out, but I feel like I'm now remembering what I already know. I don't think we're here to figure things out. I think we're here to remember how powerful we are. And you can only do that by what I talked about is staying present. Because if you're constantly thinking future, now you got to go future to build the things you need to do in the present to build a business.
Sure.
I can't just sit here and like when I came back from Peru the first time, we almost lost the business. I was like, man, I'm just gonna freaking wear Birkenstocks and love everybody, dude. And they're like, dude, we have to run the business, dude. Like, we got goals and we got people to feed. And I was like, okay. And then I realized you can have both, and that's another thing too. You can be spiritual and you can be very wealthy. You can drive I drive a nice car. Like there's nothing wrong with that.
There isn't.
Yeah, I think what is wrong with it is when I used to drive a really nice car, I would be like, is anybody looking at me?
As much as we say we don't care, I'm going to say we stopped caring as much.
Sure.
You stopped caring. Like I'm
Yeah.
giving a presentation on stage in the next couple of days at this big event that we're having, similar to what you're doing next week or whatever. I'm going to speak on stage, and the second thing in my slide is stop giving a shit what people think and start caring about what you think. Start caring about what people that are in your circle. Like focus on
Yes.
them and you,
Yep.
and those people will start to gravitate towards you.
Yes, yes.
And then you won't
Yep.
be taken out of that frequency, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
You put yourself around the
Yep.
right people, you don't go back to that frequency because they don't allow you to.
Right.
Right?
Right.
That's a
Yep.
very important thing I think people need to understand. You've done it. I've done it.
yeah.
We both have been in situations like people don't know my story, but I've been homeless, living in my truck, me and my dog. Went out to my house and it says you've been evicted, and I'm like, oh my God, what am I gonna do? Like I failed, I can move back home and be like, sorry, I gave up, and everybody says, told ya. You know how it is. Your dad said the same thing to you.
there, man.
Told
Yeah.
ya. Right? I
Yep.
think it was like you said it was your
Yeah,
father,
yeah.
right?
Yep,
Yeah, I
yep,
told you you
yep.
shouldn't have done this,
Yep.
right? And it's like big gut punch.
Yeah.
Or you get back up and you start swinging again. And,
Yes.
and you surround yourself around the right people. You learn from what you learn from the experiences before. Because again, you talk about failure. You brought that up. Like you can't learn if you don't fail.
You can.
can't. It's
Yeah.
not
You have to have inversion. You have to have duality, right? Yin and yang, whatever you want to call it, duality, devil, God, or Christ. Everything is dual. Everything has a dual focus to it. You'd have no idea what it feels like to be well if you've never been sick. You'd have no idea what it feels like to be rich if you've never been poor. You'd have no idea what it feels like to have a good relationship if you've never had a bad relationship. So everybody looks at the bad as like, oh, this is so horrible. No, this is phenomenal because now you can know what it doesn't feel like if you choose to transmute it. And that is a story of all the successful people. I'm meeting all these super hyper successful people, and there's the secret sauce, man. It's like every person I'm meeting that's hyper successful, they know who they are. They know who they are. They're like, you just show it. Like I'm CJV.
So true. And
That's who.
you
Yep.
see the ones that don't, because you can still get to success and fully not know who you
Oh,
are.
100%.
The ones
100.
that
Yep.
don't though, you see them
Yep.
fall back into that trap over and over
Yep.
again.
Yep. You see it with a lot of like streamers now too, and like these people blowing up, and it's like, and it goes back to that's what my Refined Integrity channel is all about, is healing the broken little boy inside. Like we as men often are responding to the lack of love or edification we got from our fathers. So our fathers grew up tough as nails. You know, we had the Great Depression, and you know, my dad was in Vietnam, and so I don't blame my dad for any of the way. Like 'cause he's just repeating what his father taught him.
Doesn't mean you have to repeat that
Doesn't mean
cycle.
that, yeah. And it's like, and I'm very proud to say he's my father because of him and his lack of being a father in my life. Like he was there, he provided, like he taught me a lot of great skills. He taught me respect of women and how to, he's been with my mom for 50 years. So there's a lot of great things he taught me, but he's the reason why I'm a great father, man. Because when I had, my kids, and it's like, man,
You were lacking certain things and now you can give it to them.
yeah, you can give it to them, and it's like for having a daughter, it's like it's okay for men. Like I think this is a big. I tell everybody I love them, I love you, and it's like, and I hug every single person. If I get to know you, I'm probably gonna hug you guys when you leave, and it's like because I think for men we think that like yes we're here to, like for example my son, like I'm here to rough him up and I'm here to teach him leadership and I'm here to teach him how hard life can be, but I'm also here to love him like he's never been loved before. To love him like I love my daughter, and show him that affection, because
That's
that
what they're
is
going to look for when they're older. Like you think about your daughter,
100%.
right? Like the kind of guy she's going to look for is the kind of guy that you are,
Yep.
right?
Yes.
And it's
Yes.
very
Yep.
important. I have a daughter myself, and we talk
Yes.
about this all the time. Like
Yep.
Rachel's probably sitting here thinking, "Holy crap!" We literally talk about exactly what he
Yeah.
just said all the time.
I take her on a date. We have our daddy-daughter date this Friday. She's 20. I've been taking her on a date for years. We go on a date. I wine and dine her. I take her on a date. We're going to watch a little the lower class of UFC fight. We go, and she just started hanging. She's probably super pissed if she is, but she just started. She's been very selective. I think she's starting to really like this guy that she's going, and made me really happy, man.
Who is he?
Yeah, yeah.
Who is he?
He's it's really cool, man.
kidding.
She was afraid to tell me about it, and she was I hope she's okay with me talking about it. He's into stocks, he's into invest. She's like, Dad, he reads books all the time, and I'm like, as she's explaining him, she's explaining me.
Yeah.
She was like, he opens my door, he reads books, he reads all the same books you read, and I'm like, this is real shit. Like this is real, because they're not
job,
listening
Dad.
to a word we say, they're watching everything we do.
Yeah, I agree.
Right? And again, too, like I have so much work I need to do. I think the biggest thing for me is like, man, the thing that I want to work on is being okay. Like for example, the like I'm sure you struggle with, like I'm always trying to build stuff and always trying, like, and it's not for me. I think I finally realized that. I think this is how I'm dealing with it, because it's not about the money to me, man. It's about creation. It's about I love creating things. Like I love creating things. I'm like, oh my God, the Refined that we're building right now, I'm just having so much fun. Even though it's not thriving. That business is not thriving right now, but it's like it's that being present and being okay with what is currently being presented to you. And I think that's where healing comes in, right? It's like, okay, this is what's being presented to me within this current paradigm. I'm working on understanding like that I don't have to fix everything. Like, I think I don't know if you go through that. So it's like I feel like I have to fix everything. Like I can't fix anybody else.
I feel like everything's going to be perfect.
Yeah, yeah. They aiming for perfection, and no, Jesus says, aim for perfection, knowing it's not possible, and because it's not possible, and it's the perfection comes in being present in what you have currently created, knowing that you can fix it.
I like that.
Yeah.
For me, the money, it is important to me, but not because of what it can buy me in the flashy
Yeah,
things.
yeah.
And I like nice things.
I
have a
do
nice
too.
car, truck, like, yeah, I've seen your car. You have a nice car. Like,
yeah,
you probably have a nice
yeah.
place. Like,
Yep.
I love your studio. The money side of it, to me, it will allow me to give my kids and my wife and my family the
Yes.
life that I've always wanted,
Yep.
and not have to go through those struggles that I went through, right? So I don't look at money as like, oh, I'm going to make so much money so I can have this, this, and that.
Yeah.
Right? That's going to come with it.
Sure, yeah.
It's no, but guess what? When a rainy day happens, guess what? All I got to do is go. I'm set up
Yes.
here. If something happens in my life with my family, right? Guess what? I got you.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
Hey, we want to live a life of freedom and not have to be, the 9 to 5.
Yes.
Money allows you to build businesses. It gives you more opportunities. So that's how I look at money.
Me
it gives
too,
me
yeah.
so much more opportunity. And then not only that, but like how many people do I get to help because of that? The more money that I'll make, the more that I'll be able to expand my business, and my business
Yeah.
is focused on helping others understand money.
It's amazing.
Right?
Yep,
That's what
yep.
I've always focused on. Understand the
Yep.
game. Let me teach it to you.
Yes.
Right? And learn with me.
Yep.
Right? The more money I have, the more people I can reach.
Yeah, and money is just currency. That's all it is. It just moves
That's how I look at
it
it.
moves to its highest level. That's all it's done. That's why you put it in a bank, they dam it up, and they make it current, right? And so, like, yeah, I had this experience. Again, I reference Peru a lot because it changes my life. I go there a lot, but I call him a mentor. And so we're in the garden, and he always checks my intentions, right? Because our paradigm keeps changing each year with wealth. And he goes, JB, what does money mean to you, man? And because he's, I mean, they live in like almost poverty out there, right? I mean, they have everything they need. They have food, shelter, they're happy as shit. They don't have the lifestyle we have out here, right? And so I was like, money means to me sitting in a garden in Peru with you for 14 days, not worrying about anything. Mm-hmm. Like, bingo.
Opportunity.
It's opportunity. Yep. And you don't need money to do that stuff. You can still be present. There's a Buddhist monk that, can live off the land. But I do like nice things. I will buy a Lamborghini Aventador. And the difference is how I do those things. Like for me, like I've set really clear parameters and rules. It's like for me, until number one, an asset has to pay for that liability. Number two is that my net for my family security, safety, bills has to be paid for by assets until I can buy things that I want. And then by the time you get there, you're like, maybe I don't want it, right? Because I really want a boat right now. Really want a boat. And I'm like, I'm not walking into a boat dealership because they'll sell me. And so I'm like, so I'm renting the boat. Like I'll rent it on the weekend, and I'm like, until an asset can pay for that liability. But why do I want a boat? Because me and my kids have a blast. I mean, it's so much fun. My son's not on his iPad. My daughter's, doing her Instagram, doing her stories, and like I'm freaking driving the boat.
I get it.
Yeah, it's like
I'm the same way with cars. Like
I love cars.
I love cars.
I love cars. Yeah.
Right? I just bought a new C8 Corvette.
Oh, I saw it.
They're so sick.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
And I'm like, I don't do it because I'm like, look at me. If anything, I actually wish I tinted my windows in my truck before we came here because I don't want people to see me.
Right.
People see my car and they follow me.
Yeah,
it's like you probably been followed at one point in your life.
We've had some interesting situations.
Right. So it's like, no, I just like nice things.
Yeah,
what's wrong with liking nice things? So the message to all of you is like, go out and don't care what everybody thinks. So it comes back to the same thing. Not caring what other people think. Enjoy and do you and be you. And if you keep doing the right thing and you're trying to help people and you're trying to better yourself and better others, right, then you deserve to have nice things.
Yeah, it's all about intentions too. It's like for some people, like again, like you said too, I love fast cars. I'm an adrenaline junkie. I like going fast on a boat. I like jumping off anything I can jump off of. Like I like shit like that.
You said the boat thing, the boat experience, being able to just hang out with your kids.
It's great, man.
On the water. And
your nature, the water. And I think too, like I'll give some examples of authenticity. Like for example, you can love or hate these people. Like, well, I'll talk about Conor McGregor. People hate on him all day. That dude is living his authentic life.
Oh,
he's on his Lamborghini boat. Like, the dude is I love watching him. He is having a blast.
The noise just flies
and he's
by
like,
him.
yeah, and he laughs all the time, and he genuinely seems happy. And everybody's like, oh, he's da-da-da-da. You can judge him all he wants. He's going to keep doing his thing, and he keeps making money, and he keeps creating new things. And it's like, it's not that I'm saying I want to be like Conor McGregor, but the essence of like he's succeeding because that's who he is. That's who he is. Like he is a maniac, dude, and he loves himself and he loves his life. And people judge him and his wife, their partying and stuff, but like that's not my lifestyle. But what I see in him is, you brought up Andrew Tate. This is what we were talking about. Andrew Tate. Andrew Tate that's who he is. That's why he's succeeding. Right. Joe Rogan, great example. He likes
says what's on his
talking
mind.
about aliens. He's talking about fighting. He says what's on his mind. He speaks his truth. You got Russell Brand. Russell Brand, a great, I love his content, man. He's just
the last couple of years he's really come out and spoke his truth. I think he fought the devil for a while. Oh,
for a long time, yeah. Right. And he went through some deep planting. He just got baptized, dude.
Yeah.
He just got baptized.
I thought that was 3 months ago.
Yeah, I thought that was really cool. And I think the whole thing about this human experience is you're trying to remember who you are. And once so for example, like, from birth to 8, that's why Jesus said to get in the kingdom, be like these lowly children, right? Because they're pure subconscious. They're being programmed, so you want to program them correctly to believe in God and whatever you choose to. Their essence they are closest to source. They're just that, my 8-year-old son, his friend, or his son are running around right now having a blast. We get from 8 to 80, we forget who we are. And we try to find out what God is and what we are when you just have to remember what you already are, right? So like we're trying to find it in a house and a spouse and a car. Well, this spouse is working out. This is making me happy. Let me go find another one. It's like, where are you going, man? Because everywhere you go, people are like, well, I'm going to move out of America. Well, when you get to Puerto Rico, you still got to look at the same person in the mirror. Like maybe America's not the problem. right? Maybe
Sometimes that is the case.
Yeah,
Could
yeah.
be the opposite,
Could be
but
the opposite,
sometimes
yeah. But it's like it's really
you should
yeah,
check yourself first before you make that decision. I think is a good point.
yeah.
Okay, you have all these issues you think are in your life. How much of it is you, right?
Yeah.
Fix you first, and
Yep.
if those issues still arise and you really truly fix yourself, well, then maybe that is the issue, right?
Yeah, yeah.
But fixing yourself first, I think, is important.
I think also too, like we are. That's what I believe Christ came to teach in my paradigm. He came to teach us that we are. He said, "You will do greater works than me." He said it. He's like, "Pick up your mat and walk." He's like, he went up to this dude, like he walks up to, he was a freaking legend, man. Like he's, obviously people talk about him all the time, but he's like, they're like, don't go in there, the Pharisees. And he walks up to this dude with a mat. The dude's sitting on a mat waiting for a fountain. He says, what are you doing, dude? He's been there like 30 years or something like that. He's paralyzed. And all these people are jumping over him. He said, whoever gets to the fountain, these are blessed by angels. When you touch that fountain, you're going to be saved, right? Jesus walks up to him. He's like, do you want to be saved? The guy's like, yeah. Pick up your mat and walk, dude. That fountain's a lie. They made this shit up, dude. They're making you sit here and believe that there's some external force. Like you got to go through this thing, and it's like Christ is like, dude, you're me, dude. Like pick up your mat.
That's why they say and I say this, I guess lightly, like God doesn't like lazy people.
Yeah, why would he? Well, like who does?
It's true. Though. So
Yeah, it's
get
like,
up and go do it,
because
and
like
that's what He wants you to do.
yeah, who does? Like it's like laziness is to have the gift. Like we are greater than the beast. We have a conscious mind. We can think, we can walk, we can talk, we can act. We're not just instinctual. We're not a dog or a cat. Like we have the ability to think. Like that's crazy. Like I can literally, I'm in a garden in Peru and this cat's walking around chasing a hummingbird, and then it's chasing a lizard, and it's just like instinctual. Here I am, I'm like, dude, I can actually build shit. I can create stuff, and then what do we do with it? Nothing. We worry about Biden not being able to talk correctly. I'm like, okay, well then go talk, go fix yourself. Like, and I think that's the biggest thing. Now, do I want a different president? Yeah, I do.
I was gonna say it would be nice if he didn't know what he was doing.
That's what I'm saying. But my point behind it, but my point behind this is, I said this to somebody the other day, like, JV, you don't talk, you don't share who you're. And I like, it doesn't matter. Like, I became wealthy under Biden, and if another president comes in, I'm probably gonna get a lot wealthier. Biden did not stop me. They tried to stop me, but it was me. It was me that did it.
My business, like yours, failed, right? During COVID.
Yep.
Mine, I luckily made it out, but I mean, we were making almost 6 figures a month.
Wow.
And this is my first ever successful business. I failed in the insurance business, but learned a lot, but got back into it. But that business almost failed during COVID. I lost 90% of my clients overnight.
Wow.
Because dealerships, it was all advertising for automotive and all that, and they shut down. They weren't selling.
Wow.
We had the chip issue. Like, I've been through the same shit.
Yeah, yep.
And so many of you guys have, and it's just, what are you going to do? You got to pick it up,
Just
and you got to
keep going.
pushing. You can't let the scenario, like, look, at the end of the day, you could hate who's running the country. There's nothing you can do about it once they're running the country. Nothing you can do about it.
Nothing you can do.
So, like, why focus on it like that? I pay attention to it, don't get me wrong.
Right.
I make jokes about it. I think it's insane what's going on around the world right now. But it doesn't stop me from getting up every day and going to find out how I'm going to make more money. Right. And getting consumed in what and I've been there. Yep. We've all been there. You're consumed.
What if like I had this vision that like, if we got everybody together, or you get together in a field, right? I look you in the eyes and say like, you're awesome. I'm awesome. Period. The end. Go get your shit together.
Yeah.
That's it. Like everything would be solved. Like, so the next day we wake up tomorrow, I'm awesome. Period. The end. Anything outside of that is an opinion. Okay, you're awesome, period, the end. Anything outside of that is an opinion.
Yeah.
Tomorrow, let's go get our shit together. It'd be an even playing field. It's like, okay, who's getting their shit together or not?
It's true. Right? Every day you wake up is an even playing field.
It's an even playing field every single day. It's like I wake up and I'm like, man, like what I did yesterday, well, of course, there's seeds that are planted that have a vibrational free will, plant seeds, which eventually comes to fruition. But it's like today I could unravel this whole thing, man, making one bad decision. I mean, I could do, like, that's the thing too, as we're building influence, right? And I'm like, I share this with the team a lot. I'm like, my decisions are so unbelievably critical now that I this path, I don't know if I chose this path chose me. I'm so thoughtful about my decisions, because like, well, what if I go to this UFC fight thing or whatever, and I have a couple cocktails and I get in my car and I get a DUI? That changes the whole outlook of our business.
Shoot.
Right? What if I,
My God.
anything, like in the DMs doing something unethical, like it's really important too. And I think that's the part of this whole thing. It's like, it's what are you doing with your time, number one? What are your intentions, number two? And are you willing to go through things you need to go through to get the things that you want? And it's like, And everybody can do this, man. Everybody. And I think one thing I want to say too is like you brought up the Coach TY thing. It's like when someone's like, "Oh, you're trying to want to be what?" Like I didn't make up the name Coach.
Right?
Anybody can be a coach.
Oh
When I
my
saw
God.
Coach TY, I'm like, "That's freaking awesome. This is Coach TY." I had not once thought Coach JV, Coach TY. I was like, he must be a coach. And that's how low frequency people think. He's copying JV. What the fuck? I'm not even. We have different finger and different DNA. I'm like, how could you? But we all copy each other. We all
We do.
plagiarize
I
off
mean,
each other.
I
Like,
will say that. I mean, like my producer talks
Yep.
about that all the time. Like you know, we copy each
100%.
other. Like you think like I look at certain people and I'm like, you really think they were the original
Yeah.
creator of that like quote?
Most of my business models are built off Alex Hormozi's model.
Yeah.
I follow every video he does, dude, and most of the things that I change within my business are based on wise counsel. You know, I went through his program, I got to meet him, and now, you know, he's almost a billionaire now. I watch every one of his videos, and most of my stuff is copied off of what he does. I actually just reframed some of his pitches, how he kicks off his YouTube videos, and it worked.
Some of the most successful businesses are copies of other
100%.
successful businesses.
Yep.
Like it's just you have to look at that and you learn from it. You don't copy it word for word. You make it your
Be
own,
yourself.
but you learn
Yeah,
from it.
yeah,
It's like
yep,
you read a book. Wait a minute. So
Yeah.
you read a book, you learned from that book,
Yeah.
but you're not going to apply it to your life because someone else taught it.
Right. For
Someone
example,
else
cash
did
flow
it.
quadrant, be like, only Robert Kiyosaki can do that.
Yeah, I'm the only one that can do that.
Yeah. You, JV, you can't talk about it because
No, I'm vibing with that, man. That's awesome.